there are, I mean, I know that there are different, there are some different perspectives and requirements, different organizations. But at the same time, you know, even a nonprofit hospital has to be profitable,
Right, I
because
know.
you
Yeah.
can't operate at a deficit, and you've got to put a little bit of money back for a
Right.
rainy day. So even a nonprofit hospital, we're having to to do that, to think about those sorts of things. But I think sustainability, again, I talked about one aspect of it is the financial aspect, and the other I think is cultural.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
is uh, does our culture value spiritual care? Does it conflate it with religious care? Um, and what do we look like in an increasingly secular um, culture? Now, I'm a little insular down here in the
Hmm.
buckle of the Bible Belt,
Yeah.
uh, so I freely admit that. Um, but I wonder as an industry what that looks like for us going forward.
Hmm. Good point. Well, I wish we had a crystal ball, but and I do think you make a good point that there's these pockets, it seems
Hmm.
to be all around the United States, that are somewhat isolated
Hmm.
from some of these larger um, cultural developments and movements that are happening,
Hmm.
that is moving away from what some people call a post Christian era.
Right. And kind of maybe to paradoxically to some of the people in my area, that it's the areas that are already experiencing that post-Christian era that are maybe best suited for the type of work that we're doing. um,
Right.
Training, uh, training interfaith chaplains. I mean, obviously that's what we do here, but we have less exposure to interfaith
Mm-hmm.
um, patient population. So there's
Mm-hmm.
just simply less possibility of that training here. But the integration of secular and humanist chaplains
Mm-hmm.
into organizations, so they those areas may be more and better suited to training for the future than the organization than areas that are that
Mm-hmm.
tend to be more religious.
It's a good point. But I do think it. Don't you think it's safe to say that if you're a person considering training and certification as a CPE supervisor, that that you're going to need to expand your theology, or you're going to
Oh,
be challenged to
without a
expand
doubt.
the scope of your theological um, map, regardless of where you are. That
Right.
there's a, I think in the industry right now, this may change, but in the industry right now, in in any CPE organization, is the movement toward a more diverse, inclusive theological worldview.
Hmm. I don't know that you could even get through certification right now without not just being willing and able, but actually doing it, expanding, and stretching and growing your faith into something that looks like that.
Mm,
Um, I Because I mean that's where I mean, I think you have to be that way. Uh, I think you have to have that type of mindset in order to be able to minister or to provide comfort and support to people of varying and no faiths, and to have chaplains and
Hmm.
um, CPE students of varying and no faiths.
Hmm.
I mean, I think that for me, that's part of the package.
Right. Right. Yeah, and even among CP supervisors, you have supervisors now who are Muslim, Buddhists, atheists,
Hmm.
and then other mainline denominations. But
Hmm.
um, that's that's becoming standard. I mean, Muslim chaplains and Muslim CP supervisors are a fairly new um, uh, component,
Right.
uh, and the impact it has had on the certification process. That you can't go through certification not and with blinders on. That's
Hmm.
not happening. You may have a Muslim on your certification committee, and,
Yeah.
or an atheist.
There was a back before I knew even what a, CPE supervisor was or what a CPE was.
Right.
I grew up in a household. My mother was um, a psychiatric social worker
Mm, wow.
at the different hospital from where I'm at now. But she worked there for most of the career most of the time I was growing up. I did not know until years later, and I got into this process that she was on the member. She was a member of that hospital's CPE program's PAG, um, and she
And
had
that's the
sat in
advisory committee.
supervisor, yeah, a professional supervisory committee, and had sat in on interviews and these sorts of things. And so when I started getting into it, I realized, wait a minute, she knows that I'm going to be talking about mama stuff in CPE. So I've always wondered what this was like for her. But she said that there was a member of their professional advisory group who was a rabbi at a synagogue in that city,
Hmm. Hmm.
and one of the things that he would ask uh, potential uh, students during their interview was, "Am I going to hell?"
Whoa.
Um,
Whoa.
and so, I mean, and that's asking somebody who's uh, thinking about entering CPE, not CPE supervisors.
Right.
So
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
I'm glad to know that that is being addressed, early on.
Mm, right. Right. It makes us all better.
Right.
Yeah. So, wow. I'm looking at the time, and I like to close these episodes out with addressing what I call a myth buster,
Okay.
uh, a misconception that people have about CPE. And I'm going to ask you. I know we've already talked about this, so I'm not going to act like we haven't.
Hmm.
But I swear I don't remember what the myth buster was. So I'm hoping you.
So we were texting about this earlier in the week, and what's a supervisory myth, or what's a myth about our industry?
Yeah.
And one thing that came to mind for me was, is there a difference, or I guess the myth would be for me, there is a difference between the psychological and the spiritual.
Mm. Right. Yeah. And I think you said you came out on the end that there's not.
I, as I had kind of pondered that question, I was thinking, it feels like, say when you look at psychological theories, there's uh, there's as many psychological theories as there are
Mm-hmm.
people who think about psychology, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody even takes their own theory and says, yeah, but I'm going to tweak it this way or this way,
Mm-hmm.
whether if it's transactional analysis or family systems theory and transference and countertransference, and the in vogue now is internal family systems theory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Jungian psychology, Freudian psychology. There's uh, there are different ways of looking at the way that we think about the world and interact with the
Mm-hmm.
world.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't faith and spirituality the same thing? In that there are different ways of looking at and interacting with our own mind, ourself, our environment, the
Gotcha.
people and the things around us.
And for whoever might be listening to this podcast, in CPE, we talk about these things.
Mm-hmm.
So these concepts of psychology, personality theory, of faith and theology, those are all discussed and talked about oftentimes within the same session, training
Right,
session.
right.
So, yeah, the point you're making, I think, is are you saying are they the same or are they a mirror reflection of each other?
I would say probably closer to the second. I think here's an
Mm-hmm.
example. So in my theory papers, I wrote about um, the self. Freud,
Mm-hmm.
calls the ego. Jung would call it the self,
Mm-hmm.
which is an amalgam of your animus and anima and your
Mm-hmm.
your shadow side and your persona and all of this wrapped up into one. IFS, internal family theory systems, talks about the self. Um, and they all have slightly different concepts of it. Um, even in family systems theory, you look at the differentiated self
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from the other people in the other pieces to the system. Well, I liken that to the my faith background, the Christian tradition of the image of God. That the true self is the image of God
Image of
that's
God.
within each person.
Model
And
day.
right, right, and different faiths have different interpretations or ideas of that, but there's a lot of different faiths that have that. It's different language for the same thing, for that
Mm-hmm.
authenticity, um, of how we are we authentic with ourselves? Am I authentic with
Mm-hmm.
the people around me? Um, I ran across a quote from Feynman today. That is a scientist in the 20th century, and um, I forget the exact words, but basically it was he was reminding us that the easiest people to fool are ourselves. And can we be authentic with ourselves?
Selves, yeah. A true self.
Our true self. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so um, yeah, I mean, you even think in the Bible, who were most of the people that Jesus healed, or not most of the people, many of the people that Jesus healed
Mm-hmm.
were demon possessed. They
Mm-hmm.
were um, um, demoniacs, or things like that. Well, I mean, today we just look at that and say, "Oh yeah, that person had epilepsy."
Right. Yeah.
Is it? Are we looking at the same thing and just calling it something else and using a different language for it?
That's interesting. You remind me, saying that reminds me so much of James Fowler,
Mm-hmm.
who wrote a
Stages
lot,
of faith. Yeah.
Stages of Faith. And those stages of faith are what he did was used the French guy, Piaget's
Mm-hmm.
stages. of
Hmm.
development
Right.
and just put well, he didn't just put, I would say, put a faith tag
Right. Right.
on
Put
the
a faith
same
tag on it.
stage.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Yeah.
And one of the things
But
that
your
got me,
question is are they the same?
are
Are
they
we
are they the
talking
same?
about
Yeah.
the same?
And so, I was looking at one of the things that got me thinking about this is we spent this unit as a CPE group looking at Jungian psychology, and his archetypes. And
Yeah.
so many of the
Oh,
archetypes that
yeah.
he acknowledged, that he pulled from, he actually pulled from the Bible.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
the father figure,
The father.
the mother figure in Mary, the hero's journey, the hero, in Jesus and Moses and Abraham. Even oh, my students hate this one, but the trickster
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
was Yahweh of the Old Testament.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
Exactly.
uh, and so, you know, um, using that language. So and another thing, I get feedback from my kid, my students, is to say, we don't do enough with theology in here. We don't talk enough about theology. And I'm like, all right, so I have y'all do a chapel service that you get that you get feedback on. I have you do a devotion at the beginning of each class period that we're doing theology. But at the same time, I look at that and say, I most of the people who come into my program here have a pretty firm foundation in the language of theology
Hmm.
and don't have that same foundation in the language of psychology.
Hmm.
And one of the things I try and help them do is to use both of those languages.
Well,
And I
and that's
wonder, I've never thought about this, John. I wonder how much of that goes to what I was thinking about earlier, what we were talking about earlier,
mhm.
of what's the what's the future of our industry look like, and
Mm.
are we going to be using is our will we be able to use theological language in a way that people understand and is meaningful for them in a few
Mm.
years, um, or will that
Mm.
language need to be more
Hmm.
psychological language?
Or something different or a hybrid, I
Mm-hmm.
wonder. Because I don't know if this happens in your setting, but in other settings, particularly um, when you start talking about the generations, whether it's X, Y, Z,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't have that background.
Right.
They don't have a biblical background, even if because like you were talking about Jung, you know, psychology, whether it was Jung or Freud, one of Freud's, I think, best books is about Moses
Hmm.
and monotheism. Is a book. I
Yeah.
mean, this psychology did not emerge in a vacuum.
Right. Right.
Uh, it emerged during a period where um, great debates had gone on about biblical and theological um, uh, faith, or I want to say doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
They're responding to doctrine of the church.
And I might even I I don't know. I might even take a step beyond that and say that it's a backlash to
Mm.
um, thousands of years
Oh,
of
yeah,
of
yeah.
humans understanding the world through religion,
Hmm.
and that the development of psychology came out of as a response to that.
Hmm. Well, and you and I both know that CPE, the movement CPE back in the 20s, started with a man
Hmm.
um, who was suffering from
Mm.
psychiatric
Right.
disturbance.
Right.
You know, I can't call his name for some reason.
Boysen.
Boysen, Anton
Yeah.
Boysen. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, because and who, in a lot of his work of studying himself, came to understand that a lot of deeply psychological issues have religious, um, he didn't say religious answers, but that they did represent also religious conflicts
Right.
as well. So, we run into this a lot, I think, in hospital ministry, where a person is in the hospital and they've been diagnosed with this very devastating disease, automatically start wondering that they do something wrong and that this is punishment.
Why me?
Yeah, why me?
Mm.
And so I think the reason why we do this in CPE and why we want students to have access to both theology and psychology is so that you can be with people in those kind of moments in their life with at least some foundational understanding,
Hmm.
you know.
Right.
Like I used to have a student that every time he encountered a patient in the hospital with a problem, he always pulled his Bible out and read a scripture.
Hmm.
And eventually I had to confront that student and saying, do you ever think that maybe that Bible is standing in between you and the patient and the problem?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the first time I had a peer say um, that the Bible is oppressive to him, and I clutched my pearls, and
Yeah.
I said, "Wow, that was a very impactful moment for me."
For you, yeah.
Yeah. Um, talk about Boysen. I heard I was able to hear Robert Dykstra speak recently,
Oh, he did. Oh,
and
great.
he had a seminar called "All the Truths We Cannot Say," um,
Mm,
and he talked about how Boysen was silenced for most of his life by the people around him. That he said some things, but that his sister edited a lot of his books
hmm. Oh, really? The books? Oh, really?
and took out a lot of things, and because it was too shameful for him and the family.
Mm.
Um, and actually, that very similar thing happened to Henry Nouwen.
Whoa.
That they were silenced
Hmm.
because of the the you know um, silenced in a sense of they fought tooth and nail to not have certain things published. They weren't published, and they were thrown away. Um,
Hmm.
and I wonder if expanding our vocabulary
Mm,
might
mm,
give our students and
hmm.
our patients
Hmm.
more of a voice
Voice.
to hate, maybe not be feel silenced by us.
Wow. Oh, that's powerful. I think that's a good one to end on, too. But I think what you're also talking about, I really do believe that that's how the CPE movement became so um, progressive
Mm-hmm.
because it was a home for people who had experienced so much shame
Mm,
in their home, in their churches.
yeah.
And it was a place where where it was okay to be authentic.
Yeah.
Now, I would say there have been some times where CPE probably went too far on those things.
Say it ain't so.
but if I think for a lot of us, we became CPE supervisors because we needed a place to be ourselves.
Mm.
Because that's what we supervise with is
Hmm.
ourselves. Or we use the term use of self, which is a term taken from psychology and systems theory,
Yeah.
and the differentiated self
Hmm.
that we
So,
supervise from.
so I know you got. You said we're about at the end, but I'm just tying that back to what we said earlier
It does tie
about
back,
motivations and
right?
um, how much of and because I have a similar history of that I talked about earlier about learning to find my voice, learning to be authentic, learning not to be so nice and naive,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, um, and I have to be careful that that's not what's helpful to all of my students, and am I putting something on them that they don't want or don't need,
Or
um,
not ready for.
or not ready for.
It's a
Wow.
timing. I think it's a timing issue too.
Yeah.
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 I've had students like that who say, you know, things I say can be hurtful, sting, some of us. But
Mm-hmm.
then over time, they say, but one thing one thing I can really trust John Thomas for is he's going to say exactly what he's thinking and feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a trust that builds up over time
Right.
in that kind of environment of authenticity. As long as you're not doing it to hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, and I remember this is uh, a memory that stands out in my mind was a student who, in supervision, I kept almost falling asleep on, and he said something one time about it, and I was yarning and everything, and he says, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay, but you are just so damn boring."
listen,
Because he
listen, listen to your countertransference. What does that tell you? What's that
right.
tell you as a supervisor? Yeah.
Yeah, because he's so
Yeah.
much in his head.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Yeah.
just like, but that helped. He told, he wrote so much at the end of the unit about how much that helped change things for him. It was a big turnaround for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Craig, this has been great, rich discussion, and I really appreciate you taking out the time of your day to do this.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me. It means a lot that you would ask me to join you on here.
Oh yeah, definitely. You're a good supervisor, good chaplain, and a almost decent human being.
Almost. I used to be a
Okay.
decent human being before I got into training.
I might edit that part out, but
No, that's fine. No, I spoke to Leslie, my my resident supervisor, after I got certified, and told her, and we both agreed that there's something about the process that just makes you into an asshole.
yeah.